Hello there, friends! Welcome to episode 19 of That One Gaming Podcast. I'm Colin, otherwise known as Delicious Morsels, and here today we've got Lucas, aka Carnevil9. How you doing today, Lucas?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing great! And we've also got Neal, better known as VMK89. How is Neal today?
Neal is doing alright.
Alright. Like to hear it. So, this week, we are going to sit down and we're going to have a nice little chat about a topic that seems to cause a little bit of contention in the gaming world. Review scores. Love them and hate them, they are, in theory, the most direct and easily understandable way to convey the quality of a game to the masses. But does a simple number really sum up a game's value, or does it instead merely provide fuel to the fire in the ever-present online discourse? And if assigning a number to a game truly isn't the best way to go about it, then what would work as a solution in its place? We've definitely got some thoughts on the matter, which we'll get to in just a moment. But first, Lucas, what have you been playing these last couple weeks?
I've been playing a couple of games for a change. Switched up my lunchtime game at work for Nier Automata that I received as a Christmas gift from Colin. And then I've also been playing BioShock and having a grand old time in the 1960s, 20 leagues under the sea.
Are you killing your cravings at the Circus of Value?
Yep.
Good.
Ha 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 ha! Killing our cravings at the Circus of Value!
Yep. While also chain smoking and binge drinking my way between the Circus of Values.
Excellent. How are you liking?
There's so much alcohol. Why did they let you drink it all?
Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah, if there's one thing the game does not have a shortage of, it's definitely booze. How are you liking Nier, though? I thought you would like that.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, that's a really good game.
Yeah.
I still want to get the Switch version for myself because there's additional content from the PS4 version that I haven't played back in. I think I got it in 2019 is when I played it. I've been wanting to go back, and the Switch version is a good excuse. I've also heard very, very, very good things about the Switch port, that it's actually like one of the best ports that the game has.
Yeah, it's been great so far. Shooting segments have played really smoothly. Yeah, platforming / action gaming segments are very fun. I already uninstalled my OS. Great.
So you were actually brave enough to do it?
Of course. You know how I am with operating systems.
Yeah, that's true. You probably tried to install Linux to it. I don't think 2B and Linux are compatible, unfortunately.
No. I don't think so either.
Yeah, that's definitely a fantastic game, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you think of the end of it once you get there. Because the end is not actually the end. Which is also a very interesting thing about that game. Yeah. What's Neal been playing?
Honestly, not a lot.
Boo.
I've been playing a little bit of Celeste. I've been attempting Core a little bit for the first time, because I went back and got the crystal hearts necessary to unlock it. But also, I've been working on getting every strawberry. I'm partially through chapter 4.
You guys are brave, because like
Lucas is also
I am very, very glad that I am not a completionist at nature, because like I would hate to feel compelled to get all of the things in that game at any cost, because I feel it would probably destroy me.
Well, initially when I first played the game, I didn't get all the strawberries, but I tried to for the first couple chapters. It got to like, I think 3. At 3, I was like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I just got whichever one, like I'd attempt all of them and try to find whatever I could. But like, if I couldn't do it after to the point that I got frustrated and give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I am. Like, if I can, I'll take a few swings at it, but if
Right.
it gets to a point where it's just like it's requiring just a little bit more like dexterity in my hands or just a little bit more mental power than I feel like putting into it at the time, I'm just like, I don't need this. I'm gonna go.
Right. Yeah, no. Working on Celeste. I think I'm the only one here who played it before, but yeah, it's a good game. I like it.
It is. It
It is
is.
a very,
Yeah.
very good game.
Yes.
But yeah, as for other games besides Celeste, I've played a little bit of Minecraft and a little bit of Mario Kart. More Mario Kart than Minecraft. We're trying to get all the gold cups in all the cups. All, gold trophies in all the cups. That's what I'm trying to say.
I was gonna say
and
there's no
it's-
cops in Mario Kart.
Cops. Yeah.
This isn't Need for Speed Hot Pursuit.
Yeah, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, Mario Kart Edition. Plays Mario running from the police. No, we are stuck on a lot of the cups. We've got all the DLC cups now mastered, but some of the original Wii U DLC is pretty hard, and pretty much anyone that has Rainbow Road is hard.
Yeah.
Sounds like Rainbow Road.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I've been up to. I haven't played much Minecraft outside of just the stream. Honestly, I've mostly been working on video editing for the podcast. I will have a video up very soon. It might be out before this podcast goes up. That's just the Dark World song. I finished the visualizer in After Effects. I'm just doing some end card shenanigans in Premiere, and then
Nice.
we'll have a video up for that. And I'm really happy with this one. I think it looks really cool.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be up within the next week.
Cool.
Cool.
And also, episode 18 is on YouTube already. I'm going to try to get
Yeah,
these
it
ones that
is.
aren't that one games up on the Tuesday after the regular podcast goes up. So,
Cool.
yeah. But yeah, that's
YouTube
what I've been up to.
Cool. So
How
what
about you,
I've
Colin?
been playing. Well, first thing I want to talk about is less what I've been playing and more what I've been watching. Because last night, I went out to dinner with my mom because we were both bored. So
Yeah.
So I went out to dinner with my mom, and then we came back to my house, and then I've been trying to get her to watch The Last of Us on HBO because it's rated really well as far as video game adaptations go. Like, it's basically been rated as the #1 video game adaptation of all time already with just one episode. So I wanted to see how my non-gamer mom would enjoy something that is basically just a one-to-one recreation of the story from a video game.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat down and we watched that when we got back after dinner last night, and it got a thumbs up from my mom, and she's looking forward to watching the rest of it. And it's just, they did a really, really good job with this. Like, it's literally like 90% of a one-to-one recreation of the game, with the remaining 10% just being them kind of fleshing out details that you wouldn't necessarily be able to in a game. Like, the first probably half an hour of episode 1 is all new material that then kind of leads into the opening scene of the video game. And what's really cool is it also kind of sets up the scenario behind the outbreak that kind of kicks off and spurs the whole apocalypse thing that The Last of Us is based around, which was really neat. So you get more context than you did in the game, but you're not losing out on anything from the game to make it up for. Like, they did such a good job with adapting this. episode 2 comes out tonight. It'll already be out by the time this episode goes live, but episode 2 comes out tonight. They go, I think it's like every Sunday night at 9 for the next 8 or 9 weeks or so. I think the first season is like 9 episodes or something. So, but it's really good. Like, even if you've never played the games, like, the show is fantastic if you have access to HBO Max. I can't recommend that enough, for sure. I've also been playing through, making good on my goal to beat all the Final Fantasy games that I have not beaten this year. And I've been playing Final Fantasy II, the original Final Fantasy II from, like, the Japanese numbering, not Final Fantasy II US, which is actually Final Fantasy IV.
Are you playing the Famicom version?
I am not playing the Famicom version because I'm not insane.
It's not the original!
Oh, I've been playing the Pixel Remastered version on my Steam Deck, and I've got my Steam Deck all set up, and so I can dock it and play it up on my TV screen and everything. So it's more or less functioning like a Switch now at this point, which is really cool, and I enjoy that. They've almost got the docking and display out thing to be seamless like it is with the Switch.
Nice.
It's a little bit different, obviously, because you're plugging something into the top as opposed to just sliding the Switch down into the dock, and the connection's made there in that instance. So there's a little bit more manual work than just like slipping it into a dock, but it's negligible, and for all intents and purposes, it works really well. I have my Xbox One controller paired right up with it, and it functions perfectly. So that's been a pretty good experience so far. I'm about 12 hours into the game, which is, I want to say, just shy of 2/3 through. No. It's not quite halfway. So that would make it a little over a third of the way through, I guess, is where I'd say I'm at, which is by far much further than I have ever gotten in this game. And I've been following a guide, which is also really cool about playing it on Steam Deck, because if you push the Steam button, or if you have a controller paired up, whatever the equivalent of that is. So on the Xbox controller, it's just the X button. The Xbox button functions as the Steam button with the Xbox controller. So you push that and it brings up a menu. And one of the selections that you can pick in that menu is guides. And in that menu, it gives you this huge list of every single Steam community guide available for that game that you can scroll through. So there's like 100% achievement guides. There's just plain walkthroughs, which is what I've been following. I've just been going through. It's just like a step-by-step walkthrough for the game, because Final Fantasy II, it's really easy to get lost in. And if you get lost, you're also highly likely to run into a tile of enemies that'll just wipe your party in one hit. And then if you didn't save recently because you're out exploring, yeah, it can be a setback, and that's what always prevented me from playing the game in the past. So now that I'm actually able to kind of progress through the story in the game, I'm liking it quite a lot, because I've always liked the leveling system, how it functions kind of like in Skyrim, where the more you use a weapon or a spell, the stronger it gets. So that's been really good. Yeah. So I will actually finish this game this time, and I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoying it. And I also, against my better judgment, started up another game recently.
Naturally.
I'm trying to keep myself from like playing too many games at once, so that way I can actually finish the games I'm playing first. But I couldn't resist, because all of the Yakuza mainline games are free on PlayStation Plus in the extra tier and above. So that's the middle PlayStation Plus tier and above. So after playing through both Judgment and Lost Judgment last month, I was like, I want to see what these mainline games are like now. So I started with Yakuza 0. I downloaded that last weekend and started that. So that's a prequel to the original game that they released it, and I think 0 came out in like 2016 or something. And right off the bat, it reminded me why I've never really played any of the Yakuza games before. It's because I heard back in the day, back when it was just like Yakuza 1 and 2 on the PS2, that there weren't any English voiceovers in the series. Or actually, I think there actually was in Yakuza 1, but the game didn't sell well, so they stopped investing in it for subsequent games in the series. And I don't like reading subtitles because it takes me out of what's actually going on the screen. So I've always just kind of avoided that. So when I booted up with Judgment and Lost Judgment, they had an English dub. So I was like, well, Zero came out just a couple years before that, so that's probably got one, right? And sure enough, it didn't. But then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I've already went through the trouble of downloading this game. I know I enjoy the gameplay aspect of these games, and I really enjoyed the stories in the Judgment series, so I know they write good stories. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna play it. And I've been loving it so far. Like, God, it's like all of the gameplay is basically identical to the Judgment series. Like it's your like 3D beat 'em up style gameplay, like, but you have two protagonists that you bounce back and forth between in Yakuza 0, and each of them has different fighting styles. So it gives you a lot of variation and stuff in your combat because each player or each character plays a little bit differently than the other one. And you're also exploring two separate towns. But what I really found that I've been enjoying in this, and it's going to suck a lot of time out of my life, is there's a property management aspect to the game where you go around and like kind of like in the classic Grand Theft Autos like Vice City and San Andreas, you can go around and buy properties and stuff and make money off of them and all that. So there's something like that in this game, and it's just really, really addicting. And all of the NPCs that you encounter throughout the city and do their little side quests for, if you finish their side quest, they will come and work for you and help you make more profits on your properties. And there's like this whole separate storyline that goes on with your property management. So there's like these 5 billionaires that own most of the property in Kamurocho. And you're kind of working your way up and kind of like going into battle with them, basically trying to like buy up all of their property and compete with them because they're just using the city as their little playground to make their money and play their games and stuff. And you're like, you know what? No. So you decide to take them on, and so you work your way up. You buy a bunch of properties from the one guy until he gets super fed up with you, and then you fight with him and then end up beating him, and then you move on to the next guy and the next guy, and you just kind of gradually buy up property all throughout the city. And it's really cool. And then the other character has a similar feature, but instead of buying properties, you run a cabaret club, and there's 5 cabaret clubs in his city that you're kind of trying to get yours to steal all of the publicity from and build up your club to be more successful than all the ones around you. So I don't know. I always liked that in Vice City. Like one of my favorite things to do when I played Grand Theft Auto Vice City was go around and like buy all the properties, and then I'd have like all these garages to store cars in and stuff. And it's kind of sort of like that, but just it's a really fun distraction. And you make so much money. I think my my property management business is already getting me like 100 million yen every single time I go to collect, which is a lot. And I've only kicked out the first of the 5 billionaires too. So like I'm still really early on here. But it's really fun. But like the story is just as insane as the story in the Judgment games too, but almost even crazier because Yakuza. Yeah, if you've been on the fence about the Yakuza games in the past, like I definitely recommend giving them a try. Start with Yakuza 0 because it's literally like the precursor to the entire rest of the franchise. So it's a really, really good starting point. You get introduced to the main characters that you'll be spending a lot of time with throughout the rest of the series. Yeah, all of the games as of right now, as of this recording, are on sale on Steam. You can get Yakuza 0 for like $5. And that's an absolute steal for this game. I don't know if they'll still be that way when this episode's live, but they go on sale frequently enough because Sega's always doing promotions for the series and all that. So it's something to keep an eye on. Definitely pick them up if you have an interest in 3D brawlers and beat 'em ups with fantastic stories. And if you're like me and you don't like having to read subtitles, take it from someone that doesn't like to read subtitles. Just suck it up and try it because it's worth the ride. And I think that's what we've been playing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. All right. So let's just scoot over to the main discussion, I suppose. So I guess kind of what I really wanted to talk about with this topic is, like, nowadays with social media, it really seems like more and more people are taking a game's Metacritic score as gospel as to whether or not it's worth the time of day and all that. And we see it time and time again with games that have a low Metacritic score per se, but the user score is like the entire exact opposite of that, where users actually that are actually playing the games are really enjoying it. So really, I just really want to beg the question, it is like, do review scores really matter, or are they just something like a relic of the past that we're just kind of clinging on to kind of fuel our console wars, basically? Now, I'm kind of interested what you guys think about it.
Nope. I mean, at least to me personally, I don't think review scores matter. But that's also because I am incredibly archaic about the way I pick games. So, like, I learn about them from word of mouth,
Yeah.
or gifts, or just playing the same old classic games that I always do. That I didn't know what the review scores were back then, and knowing what they are now doesn't change things for me.
I always took review scores into account a lot. Like, it wouldn't be my only factor, but if I was looking for new games, I would look at, like, the console I was on and look at the, like, really good ones that interested me. Of course, this was with, because most of my console history has been with consoles that had long since passed, like PS2 and GameCube. This was during the 2010s that I was into those. And eventually PS3, but by then the PS4 was out. And I think things are generally more accurate after a lot more time has passed.
I would say so.
Fair.
Yeah.
But I've been, while we've been talking, I've been going through a couple of my favorite series and looking at the Metacritic scores, and they're not always right at all.
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of that last night too, but with Moby games, because sometimes Metacritic doesn't have NES titles.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
Super Metroid doesn't have a rating.
Yeah, I think Metacritic is a much more recent thing. I mean, obviously the internet would have had to be around for them to really do anything. So they came along. I think the furthest back it goes is PS2 era.
Yeah.
So like the early 2000s, I think, which makes sense. Like something like that would kind of crop up once the internet started getting more mainstream and outlets started publishing their scores online and all that. Because all Metacritic is an aggregate site.
Yeah.
Like they're designed to go around and round up everybody's scores and provide an average. And then basically that average is what people tend to cite as a game's like final rating as to whether or not it's worthwhile or not, is whatever that number that they see when they go to that Metacritic page.
And Moby Games is kind of the same way, but they're more focused as being like just a database of video games entirely.
Yeah.
So like if they have reviews for a game, they'll be on the page for the game. Like they don't quite average them up, but they do kind of convert all of the review scores that they have listed on a game's page into a score out of 100. So you could average them out and come up with a Metacritic-like score.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, like, I don't want this to come off like we're saying, like, critic scores are, like, you should ignore them or something like that, because they do provide a very necessary service, and they give you a good starting point where you can begin to judge if a game is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But a lot of that you can do without actually assigning a number score to that product. Because what I've found over the last couple of years that I really like when it comes to reviews is I'd much less rather see like a 4 out of 5 or a 9 out of 10. I'd much rather just see if the person reviewing the game enjoyed it and would recommend it. And if my views kind of align with that person, then that I would be more likely to take that into account than if this game's got a 97 on Metacritic sort of thing.
Like, yeah, and a lot of the reviewers I used to watch that were like YouTuber reviewers, they started out doing number scores, but at this point and long since have like just stopped doing number scores because of this issue.
Yeah, because what you'll see a lot of people online with these numbers, what they'll do is if they really liked the game, but a reviewer didn't really care for it, so they give it a low score, and that affects the aggregate score on Metacritic negatively. So then they're like all out flaming this one reviewer because their reviews didn't align with it, and it's affecting their Metacritic score, and they're so hyper fixated on that Metacritic score being good for validation and all that it just like it's almost like the number is creating a lot of toxic things in the community.
Yeah, I'd agree. Sonic Unleashed comes to mind.
And I mean, like I'm sure we've all been guilty of looking at a review with a bad score that doesn't necessarily align with our personal opinion of the game and being like, ha, they're full of crap. But like,
I found when I was looking at Mega Man scores, quite the opposite, actually.
You get rated too high.
Yes,
but we personally know better than to like go after someone for their views and stuff on that. It's like, sure, the game, like not every game is for every person, but when you have a bunch of people looking at this number, like that's the only value that this game will ever have is if it has a high Metacritic score. It like twists things, and some people get a little crazy because like I mentioned, like what I've kind of really started to enjoy what I look for in reviews is more like a recommendation thing, like kind of like the way the completionist has been rating games nowadays. I mean, I'm not a completionist, but his scale kind of applies where it's complete the game, finish the game, play the game. Like I think he doesn't really get much lower than that.
Yeah.
Very frequently. But like it still kind of applies. It's like complete the game to me is like this game is absolutely phenomenal and it's absolutely worth putting all the time that you feel necessary to put into it. Finish the game is like it's really, really good, but like beyond just playing it through to see how the story goes, it might not have much more value outside of that to you. And then so on and so forth. Play it, just give it a try, see how you feel about it, sort of thing. It didn't necessarily vibe with me, but it might vibe with you. That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, another channel that I've been really appreciating the reviews of lately is the channel Skill Up, where they just straight out like title the title of all of their reviews is I recommend this game, or I don't recommend this game, or I strongly recommend this game, or I strongly don't recommend this game, that sort of thing. So right off the bat, going into it, it's like, okay, so they are recommending this game. Let's see why. Or they don't really recommend this game, but I was kind of looking forward to it. Let's find out what they had to say about it, that sort of thing. And I really appreciated that as well.
Yeah. I kind of agree, yeah, that a more qualitative rating scale rather than a quantitative one like provides better information to the end user of like, hey, they might not have cared for this game, but this game still looks like it's something that I would appeal to, rather than like 60 out of 100.
Oh, must be a bad game because it's got a 60 out of 100.
Yeah.
And then like that's like the end of the thought process for a lot of people. And it does a lot of games disservice because like you go, what Sonic Frontiers got on Metacritic right now? It's like a 79.
Let me check. I got that page.
I think
71 from PS5.
Okay. So yeah, but another thing Metacritic does is like their scores are also color coded. So like once you get below an 80, it goes from a green to a yellow. And for a lot of people, once you hit that yellow, it's like
a bad game. No,
it's a bad game. It's a bad game. It's like no, it's not top tier game. Like that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's still, if it's something you want to try, it's still probably going to be worth your time to try it out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just seem to get, again, so hyper fixated on that. Like if that box is not green, that must not be a good game.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they use it. It's like, well, my PlayStation exclusive has a green box, while your Nintendo exclusive has a yellow one. It's like, So what? They're both probably enjoyable games for the people that are looking forward to them.
Right. Yeah. And like going through, I just searched up Sonic on Metacritic, and most of the games, even the ones that are considered good, are yellow. Like Sonic Adventure 1 for the GameCube is 57.
Wow.
Which I don't like that game that much anyway, but that's beside the point. What I'm trying to make is like a lot of people's favorite Sonic games are really low rated, lower than Sonic Frontiers, but they're not looking at that.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, like I do see value in the green and the yellow in some cases, just because like if I'm looking for, I want to play the best Sonic games, I can just go to those green ones.
Yeah.
And say, okay, Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors are both green games. They're probably good. Those are probably the most popular and the most well-reviewed, obviously. So, like, I'm probably not going to go wrong with this if I like this game. At the same time, sometimes these scores don't make any sense to me. Like, guess what the highest-rated Mario Kart is?
Ooh, this ought to be interesting.
Can I hear some guesses?
We've done this before.
Yeah.
Since you're asking, it's probably not Double Dash.
Nope.
And it's probably not Deluxe.
Nope.
Well, then they're just wrong then.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it Mario Kart Wii?
Nope.
No?
That's one of the more low ones. It's only got an 82.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Oh, interesting.
Is it 64?
Let me see if that one's on here.
I think 64 probably predates the aggregates. Is it Super Circuit?
It is Super Circuit.
Oh my god. You're kidding.
No, I'm not. It's got a 93.
Wow, that's just, oh my god.
Wow.
I mean, admittedly, it's 1 point higher than Mario Kart 8, but still.
I just...
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
That's incredibly incorrect. Just like Mega Man 3.
Yes, you were talking about this yesterday.
Yep. I averaged out the scores on Moby Games. It comes out to be about an 85.1. And that's still too high, quite frankly.
I didn't know Mega Man 3 was this bad.
I've heard
it's not great.
It's like I've heard between Mega Man 2 and 3, like those are like the most praised of the classic Mega Mans, though.
I would
say like a lot of people go back and forth between like 2 and 3 being the best.
Three
Clearly, you lean more.
sliding,
Clearly, you lean more in the camp of 2.
Yes.
But like a lot of what I've heard is like of like the classic NES Mega Mans, like 2 and 3 are the go-tos.
Right.
I find issues with the gameplay balance in 3, and that's mostly what keeps me away from it. And also preferring like 4, 5, and 6 over it. So the thing with Mega Man 3 is that there are kind of 2 separate weakness chains. One of 3 Robot Masters, one of 5 Robot Masters, and there's like no crossover between weaknesses.
Interesting.
So that adds to the difficulty.
So you have to go through 2 different
Mega
ones.
Man is already really hard.
Yeah, okay.
So
So you go through 2 different ones without having the weakness.
more or less, yeah. Like,
Okay.
the only advantage is that at this point you have more Robot Master weapons that might make it easier to get through the stage, but you're still probably fighting them with the Mega Buster, because non-weakness weapons tend to do very low damage, like not much, if any, over the Mega Buster.
Huh.
But also, Mega Man 3 was also the first one to introduce stages between the 8 Robot Masters and the Wily Castle, which adds to the length of the game. And I think it's really well executed in 4, 5, and 6, because it turns into plot twists, actually. Meanwhile, Mega Man 3 is just like, alright, while you were off fighting the first 8 Robot Masters, Dr. Wily was getting the Doc robots ready so that you could fight the 8 Robot Masters from the last game again. And also, all of the stages are just kind of slightly modified versions of 4 that you already played through. Hope you like spikes and Kaizo traps, because that's what these stages are now.
I hate spikes. Spikes are awful.
Yeah.
I have bad news for you about Celeste.
Yeah. So, like, Mega Man 3
Celeste
introduces things that become staples of the series thereafter, but it executes them incredibly poorly, in my opinion.
As tends to be the case with new things being introduced that later become staples. You either get them right the first time, or you get them right the second time.
Yeah.
Seems like in the case of Mega Man, seems like in the case of Mega Man, it was the second time around where they finally nailed those down.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part, even-numbered Mega Man games are pretty good. Maybe not 8.
Yeah.
Jump, jump, slide, slide. Need to collect the evil energy, Mega Man.
But yeah, back to the topic at hand, though. Review scores do also kind of serve a questionably necessary thing when it comes to like end of year award services and stuff. Obviously, the highest rated games of the year are going to be more likely to win awards and stuff like that, and it's easier to look back at something with like just like a 90 Metacritic versus a 60 Metacritic. It's like, well, yeah, maybe the 90 Metacritic's probably going to be a lot more likely to win an award. But when people seem to get so fixed on whether or not their game is going to be eligible for the Game Awards Game of the Week, Game of the Year category, it's like there's your game could fall short of that and still be a fantastic game. Like, it's cool that something gets that Game of the Year stamp on the box, or they get that special Game of the Year edition sort of thing, but nowadays a lot of games don't even get Game of the Year, and they get Game of the Year editions, so looking at you, Far Cry 6, like, I'm not gonna come out and say that we should just abolish review scores or anything like that, because they do serve a purpose that can be positive.
Yeah.
It's just, I think a lot of people really need to kind of take a step back and think about how they personally view a game and its review score, and understand that it's just a number that's like if your game that you're looking forward to gets a Metacritic score of 70, you're still allowed to look forward to it and you're still allowed to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
people
Like I don't know, Pokemon Scarlet, for example.
yeah. But I mean, like last year, like from the second Elden Ring came out with its 97 Metacritic, like the entire year, the narrative was just, well, God of War is not going to get a 97. It's not going to be Game of the Year. Elden Ring is the best game. It's like, that was just, I heard that ad nauseum all year last year. And it's like, okay, that's cool. God of War is still going to be a fantastic game, even if it doesn't score as highly as Elden Ring does. They're both great games. And then I got my Xenoblade Chronicles 3 over here with an 89 Metacritic, and I enjoyed that more than I enjoyed God of War and Elden Ring combined. So, I mean...
Mine, really?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said last episode, like, I put well over 100 hours into Xenoblade 3 alone.
Yeah.
I guess that's fair.
I mean, yeah, so, I mean... they're a starting point, but don't let that be your deciding factor on a game's value, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
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 All right.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling this was going to be a shorter episode, as our like kind of more general discussion things where we're not like each listing off favorite things and stuff tend to be. So I came prepared.
Oh boy.
With a game.
Oh boy, game time.
Yeah, but it's not going to be as long a game as our previous one. So last time we went 5 rounds. This time I'm just doing 3 rounds because I figured, also knowing that this episode was going to be a little bit more on the short side, I kind of figured let's kind of lean into that a little bit since we've had so many long episodes. It'd be nice to kind of just have a nice, shorter, more easily digestible one here and there every now and then. So we're doing 3 rounds. The game in question is called Metagame Madness.
Okay.
And here's how it works. So each round I picked 3 games, and you guys are going to work together to put them in order from highest Metacritic score to lowest Metacritic score. Because if there's one thing that numbered scores are good for, it's putting stuff in the list. So,
all right.
Are we ready?
Which Metacritic score are we going by? The critic score or the user score?
The critic score.
Okay.
Yeah. The Metacritic score. Yeah. Yep. Maybe we'll do a user score variant of it at some other time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so our first round, and I tried to keep these somewhat themed as well, so as to not like have a bunch of just like random games on there sort of thing. So our first round is all Game Boy Advance games.
Okay.
And they're all RPGs. Because the Game Boy Advance was a pretty good RPG machine, actually, if you really look back at it.
Yeah. Got all them Final Fantasy remakes and the Mario and Luigi games and whatnot.
Yep. So, our options for round 1 are Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, as mentioned by Lucas, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, and Golden Sun.
I
don't know what that is.
It's sort of a Nintendo franchise.
One of their sadly long forgotten franchises.
Yeah.
It's like fantasy RPG.
They were on the Wii U Virtual Console.
Yeah, that's something.
They remember them for that, but they won't port them forward anywhere else.
Isaac's an assist trophy in Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah. They keep beating around the bush just like they do with F-Zero. They kind of wave it in front of you like a carrot on a string. Like, hey, we know we own this still, but we're not going to give you any new games for it, or we're not going to bring it to the Switch, but here, we're going to dangle it in front of you.
Yeah. Actually, I think the Game Boy Advance F-Zeros might have been the last F-Zeros.
Oh. You're probably right.
'Cause, yeah, there was a couple of them. I don't remember the exact chronological order, but there's a good chance that since there was more than one of them, they came out after F-Zero GX.
Yeah.
And, yeah. F.
All right. Put them in order.
You played any of these games, Neal?
What was okay? It was Super Circuit Golden Sun. What was the first one?
No, it was Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga.
Oh yeah. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, Pokemon Ruby
Pokemon.
Sapphire
Pokemon
and
right.
Golden Sun. Yeah.
Yep.
I
know nothing about Golden Sun. I know people like
here.
I'm the only person here that's played Golden Sun. I guess that's not too surprising.
I didn't have a lot of Game Boy games growing up. I just had a few.
Do I look like I know what
an RPG
is? I just want to print a picture of a hot dog.
I never owned it, but I had a friend that let me borrow a copy of it for a little while.
I don't know. I feel like Golden Sun would probably be high on this list since it's here.
That would kind of be my guess too. It's a game that definitely has a cult following to it, kind of like the Earthbound games.
Right.
But cult following doesn't necessarily transfer to Metacritic scores.
That is true.
Oftentimes, games with cult followings don't score high.
Yeah, like Kirby's Avalanche has maybe like a 70 average on Moby games, and like that was my introduction to the much, in my opinion, beloved Puyo Puyo series. So
Puyo Puyo Puyo.
Puyo Puyo's great. Go play it.
I'm gonna say Pokemon is probably on the bottom of this because it's gonna get so many rankings that there's gonna be a lot more people that don't like it and want to dunk on it.
Like Scarlet and Violet.
Right, except
user score 3.2.
Boy,
is that really it? Holy
cow. A lot of people don't like it. Meanwhile, here I am investing more time in a Pokemon game than I ever had before. Maybe I'm a cheap date. Perhaps I flock to garbage. Who knows? But yeah, Pokemon will probably see a lot of eyes. So
yeah,
when you're
I would say that's on the bottom.
That can be detrimental. Yeah, I kind of want to put Golden Sun in the middle then.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Because like Mario is Mario.
Yeah.
Critic darling.
Yep. Review score or not, like it's a Mario game. They're gonna like it.
All right. So you were gonna go with Mario and Luigi on top, Golden Sun in the middle, Pokemon on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yep.
You failed.
Of course we did.
The correct order is Golden Sun at the top with a 91.
Wow.
Mario and Luigi in the middle with a 90. So they were close. And Pokemon on the bottom with an 82. And I think you're probably right bang on the money with just there were a lot of eyes on that, and Pokemon has never been a thing for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And also it's like starting to get into the Pokemon games that like turned off some of the original fans.
Yep. Yeah, Ruby Sapphire I think they were a little bit controversial when they came out. Yeah, I never got to play them back in the day.
A lot of
stuff. They did.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of water.
Yep. Yeah,
a lot of water. So much water. So much water.
The Colin region is a pain to navigate.
So much water.
And I mean, it introduced some neat stuff like a real-time clock for the growing of berries and whatnot, and also Pokemon abilities. No physical special split just yet, but adding in
abilities and natures was huge.
Yeah, abilities, natures, the return of held items. It is return of held items.
Yep. Yeah, Ruby Sapphire was where modern Pokemon really began to take shape.
Yeah. And that added so much complexity to the Pokemon series, on top of already being, at the time, a 17-way rock, paper, scissors fight.
Yeah. But Yeah, Golden Sun, though, I really, really definitely recommend checking that one out. There's a reason it's rated that high. It's really one of the best RPG experiences on the GBA, and it sucks that it's just kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
And the Wii U Virtual Console that in a couple of weeks isn't really going to exist anymore. Like, literally I think from the day this episode goes live, which will be the 24th, I think literally 2 months from that in March is when the Wii U and 3DS eShops go bye-bye.
Yeah, I think it'll be going out right about the same time as like the first time we brought it to the attention.
Yep.
On
yep.
the podcast.
Yeah, so if there are games on the 3DS and the Wii U that you still want to grab, time's getting short.
Yep.
It's more a reminder for me than anybody else.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our second round. So we're going...
Pick up Prime Trilogy before you can't.
Yeah. So, round 2, we're headed over to the PlayStation 2. And for this one, I picked what is arguably like the top 3 PlayStation 2 franchises. Like, when you think of the PS2, like, these are 3 of the big names that really pop out to you. And I picked the first game from each of these 3 franchises. So your choices are Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, and Jak and Daxter.
Oh wow! Okay, the trio.
Yeah.
The holy trinity of Sony exclusive PlayStation 2 games.
Yep.
Sadly, only one of them has survived to this day.
Ratchet and Clank.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I as research for this, I was actually looking at Ratchet and Clank, but I don't think that's going to help me because I think all of these games are ranked really, really high.
Yeah, I'd believe
Are we
it.
talking about the first games?
The first game in each series.
Okay. So Ratchet and Clank first game wasn't rated as high. I don't remember the number, and I'm not going to switch to that tab because that feels like cheating.
Correct.
But like it was still definitely green. I will say that.
My guess they'd probably all be green.
Yeah. I mean, Jak and Daxter 1 is arguably the best one, although it is a different game style from the other 2.
That's what I've heard.
Okay, you haven't played Jak and Daxter.
Or Ratchet and Clank, or Sly Cooper.
Well, I guess you didn't have a PlayStation 2 growing up, though.
Yeah, I didn't have a PlayStation 2 until sometime in college, and like my friend James had brought over his PlayStation 2, but his PS2 wasn't reading his copy of Battlefront 2 very well.
Yeah.
So I said, hey...
Isn't that when you went to TGW and bought one?
Yeah, I went and bought a PlayStation 2 to try and play Battlefront 2.
Interestingly, that period of time is probably around the time I bought a PS2 too.
And yeah, after I got that, I ended up picking up Final Fantasy X.
Hey, that's a good game.
I think 10-2 as well.
Hey, that's
it's a game.
It's not a bad game.
It's one of the games of all time.
It is definitely a game with Final Fantasy X in the name.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to sound like I hate it or anything, because it's pretty good, actually. The job system in that game's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It just it's not the same.
It's not.
I also picked up Metal Gear Solid 2 and still have not played it.
Oh my.
Yeah, for as much as I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid when I picked it up at a thrift store for like $10, I didn't ever play the second one after buying it.
It's really good. A lot of people hate it, but it's really good.
It introduced Raiden.
It did.
He got his own game.
Yes, he did.
And that game got its own mod that replaced Raiden with Pepsi Man.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Anyways, so what you thinking for ranking, Neal?
This is a really tough one. I don't know. I think okay. So if I was ranking this, I'd probably rank it Jack and Dexter at the top, followed by Ratchet and Clank, followed by Sly Cooper. I'm not actually super familiar with. I forget which Sly Cooper game I even had. I'm not super familiar with Sly Cooper, but I feel like that rating I just listed, Jack on top and Sly on the bottom, is probably how it would be. But it feels like a shot in the dark because I don't know for sure. I think Sly definitely is not the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of what I know about the Sly Cooper games is that they are kind of stealth action games.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're a lot of fun to run around in.
Yeah. But, stealth action isn't exactly everyone's cup of tea, so I can see that being lower.
Yeah. And I could see Jack and Daxter being below the original Ratchet and Clank. Although, I don't know. Both the original Ratchet and Clank and the original Jack and Daxters are more collectathons than the the following games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you have any argument, I'm going to go with Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and Sly Cooper.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Final answer?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. You are correct.
All right.
Yay.
You did it. Yeah, Jack and Daxter. I mean, these are all within 2 points of each other too, so they're all really closely rated.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
Jack
right.
and Daxter was at the top with a 90. Ratchet and Clank had an 88, and Sly Cooper had an 86. So they were all and for it, a lot of it really changes once the sequels come into play, because then Sly Cooper bumps up, and Sly 2 is actually, I think, more in the middle. Ratchet 2 is rated higher, and then Jack 2 is way down at the bottom because Jack 2 changed the gameplay a lot, which is I have a really soft spot for Jack 2 as opposed to Jack 1 because that was the first one that I played because I got that with my PS2 for that Christmas.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a lot of people like the first game more because Jack 2 kind of really flipped the script on the style of game that it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And also suddenly became very dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got really dark. Yeah, all right. On to our final round. This one doesn't really have any central theme other than the fact that these are all highly rated games and they're all on the Wii. So, your options are Metroid Prime 3, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, and Xenoblade Chronicles.
Of course you'd try and shoot one Xenoblade in there.
Of course. Who are you talking to here?
Yep. I did really enjoy Prime 3 when I played through it. That being said, when has my critic score compass ever been accurate? This is the guy who found redeeming qualities in Metroid Other M. I think. I feel like Skyward Sword, from what I remember, kind of got a mixed reception coming off of Twilight Princess for some of the gameplay mechanics that were changed in it.
Motion controls. Yeah, Skyward Sword was not well received. So I want to say that's going to be on the bottom.
Yeah.
But I don't know about Xenoblade.
Yeah. That one might be another Golden Sun where they got lucky because one guy that really liked reviewing RPGs reviewed it, so it has a 91. That's rude. Golden Sun, I've heard great things about. And it was a game that people were actively protesting trying to get Nintendo to bring over to the Wii. So, but that's people. We're talking about reviewer scores. But also, I don't know about Metroid Prime 3 being better than that. Because also motion controls. But the motion controls in Metroid Prime actually are really good. Even if Prime 3 had slightly simplified gameplay compared to Prime 1 and 2, even on the Wii with Prime Trilogy.
Yeah, when did it come out? How early in the life cycle was it?
Pretty early. I don't think it was quite launch title, but it was very, very close to that.
Right, and early Wii games, even the bad ones, were reviewed well because the Wii was still really popular and people just wanted more Wii games.
Prime 3 was 2007, so yeah, it was about year 2 of the Wii.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to say Skyward on the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's Xenoblade versus Metroid? I want to say Metroid. Metroid on top.
Yeah. I think I'm going to agree there.
Okay, so your final order is Metroid Prime 3 on top, Xenoblade in the middle, and Skyward Sword on the bottom?
Yes.
You fail! You got 1 out of 3 correct.
Really
you got 1 out of 3 correct. So, for the redemption arc, which one do you think you got right?
Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword, yeah.
Ah, you failed the redemption arc too.
Dang it.
What? Okay.
So, the correct order. Number 1, Skyward Sword was at the top with a 93 Metacritic.
It's because it's a Zelda game, isn't it?
I think the critics really liked it, and it was more of a critically received well. Once it got in the hands of players, it got tore apart type deal.
That makes sense.
But the user score is also an 8.1, so I guess it's kind of gone up over the years. But I think people just like to meme on it.
Yeah. The Groose is on the loose.
Yeah. The number 2 slot was Xenoblade. The number 2 slot was Xenoblade Chronicles with a 92. That puts it above Metroid Prime 3, Lucas, with its 90 Metacritic score.
Okay, that's not a bad score.
No, it's not bad. And Metroid Prime Trilogy got a 91.
All right.
Still lower than Xenoblade Chronicles, but it...
Well, that's where you're wrong.
That's where the critics and the users clash.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that one there in particular, and I was like, oh, I gotta go for that for Lucas. I gotta go for that. And then I was originally gonna have it lead off with Twilight Princess, but that was, like, I knew that was gonna be a guaranteed, like, that's gonna be on top. Yep. Guaranteed. Like, it's Twilight Princess. So then I saw Skyward Sword, and I was like, oh, that might actually work.
Yeah.
And it did.
Critically reviewed well, but then also, like, the users were like, eh.
Yeah. So, that's the end of our first attempt at Metagame Madness.
I might have a bonus round here if you give me just a minute.
Ooh, a bonus round.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get to play around.
Yeah.
All right.
How the turns have tabled.
How the turns have tabled. Bonus round.
So, these are all the Nintendo versions of these Sonic games. We're, of course, it's me, so we're doing the Sonic, the Sonic round.
Lightning round Sonic version.
Yes. All right. So, the games are Sonic Colors on the Wii, Sonic Forces on the Switch, and Sonic 4, the WiiWare version. Specifically Sonic 4 Episode 1, by the way.
Yeah, okay. I know for a fact Forces has got to be on the bottom. Between Sonic 4 and Colors, though, that's where it gets tricky because both of those were really well received.
There was a lot of hype surrounding 4 when it came out because holy crap, finally a 4th Sonic.
Yeah. I want to say Sonic 4 is at the top.
Seems reasonable.
And then Colors, and then Forces.
Final answer?
That's my final answer. Lucas, what do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You are 100% correct.
Yes!
Nice.
Yeah.
That helped.
So yeah, Sonic 4 Episode 1 on the WiiWare is the best rated critically. It's got a 6.3 user score.
Boy,
That sounds
that's rough.
Meanwhile, Sonic Colors on the Wii has a 78 and 8.2 user score. And Sonic Forces is a 57 with a 6.7 user score.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Yep.
You know,
And you know what? I actually kind of liked Sonic Forces. So there you go. Review scores don't matter. If you like the game, you like the game.
right.
Did I think it was the greatest Sonic game I ever played? No. But like
Played the
for
Sonic game.
I mean, I got it in a bundle with a bunch of other Sonic games on PC, so I just had it sitting in my Steam library. So I installed it one night, and it was an okay, albeit very short, 4-hour-long experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I chomping at the bit to return to it? No. But I do wish they would bring back the create a character aspect in the future Sonic game and actually like flesh it out a little bit.
Right.
We need more Sonic OCs, do not steals.
Because the one thing I will say that is probably my heaviest criticism against it is that, like, my character had, like, really angry looking eyes. Like, he was, like, a badass. But they made him such a freaking, like, your character's such a freaking wimp in the game. So he's, like, always cowering in fear. It's like, really?
Yep.
Why give me the option to look like a badass if I'm just going to be a wimp?
Right. Yeah. Well, the cutscenes never change in that one. It doesn't matter. You can make your guy look as silly as possible, and he's like a big part of this rebellion against Eggman. And,
the
game's not.
It's not great, but like I have fun. I have fun. I have fun for 4 hours, and I paid negligible amounts of money for it. So
right.
Yeah, wasn't that bundle when you picked up Sonic Adventure 2 because we found out your car at the time was an in-game model?
Yep. Yeah, the Sonic wagon, which people listening to this podcast may have heard me reference at one point. I don't know. It was a 97 CRV that I just memed out like crazy and had a bunch of Sonic memes on the window, and on the back, the rear window had a giant decal that said the Sonic wagon on it. And it was just all decked out with Sonic stuff. I went like way over the top with it.
Made a custom front badge to replace the Honda logo out of a Sonic belt buckle.
Yep. I went all out with that thing just because I leaned into a meme for the sake of leaning into a meme. And it turns out, there is in the famous City Escape level in Sonic Adventure, they have a model of an actual 97 Honda CRV that was the same exact color as the one I was driving.
Yeah.
So naturally, I leaned even heavier into the meme after that until that car finally crapped out on me, unfortunately.
Yeah. Went full meta and even put a sticker of the car in the game on the car.
Yeah, I did. I loved that car. That was a fun car.
Yeah. It even had the picnic table in it still.
It did. That was why I bought it. I wouldn't have bought it if it didn't have the picnic table.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's skedaddle on over to our weekly Link to the Past. And this one we have a pretty cool one. So today, the date of recording is January 22. And 10 years ago today, we got a little game here in North America known as Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, released on the PlayStation 3. So this game is notable because it featured animated cutscenes by the very highly regarded Studio Ghibli studio.
Ooh.
And the art style of the game was completely inspired by the Studio Ghibli art style to complement those animated cutscenes. And the score was also done by Joe Hisaishi, or Hisaishi? Probably Hisaishi.
Yeah.
Anyway, Japanese names, I apologize. I don't speak Japanese, so they're sometimes hard to pronounce properly. But anyway, he was the composer for many, many Studio Ghibli classics, including like Kiki's Delivery Service and My Neighbor Totoro. So,
Nice.
yeah,
Cool.
it originally released on the PlayStation 3 back in November of 2011 in Japan, but it was brought over and localized by Namco Bandai in 2013 on this day, 10 years ago.
Nice.
So happy North American birthday to Ni no Kuni. I have it and the sequel on the PS4. Eventually I'll play them. I started playing the first one, but I kind of fell off of it for a little bit. But I'd like to go back to it and give it another shake because it's got a really cool battle system to it. You go around and you capture and tame familiars, sort of like in a Pokemon game. You capture monsters and stuff, and you train them up to fight alongside you. And it was really cool. It's a really, really charming story. I mean, it's got beautiful artwork because it's literally Studio Ghibli artwork.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very distinctive visual style. It's a good game. And there's a movie that's kind of like a sequel to it on Netflix that is pretty good as well.
Cool.
So yeah. It's a good game. If you haven't played it yet, it's available everywhere now, and you could probably get a discount because the remastered version's been out for a little while now. So
yeah.
Definitely worth a pickup. It's a good game. But anyway, that's going to bring us to the end of episode 19. So, to the listeners, what are your guys' thoughts on review scores? And do you find them a positive way of rating a game overall, or something instead that just causes too much discourse in this day and age? What do you think would be a better system if one were to exist? You can email us directly with your answers to those questions at fans.togp@gmail.com. And you can also ask us any other questions you have, and we may read and respond to it on a future episode. But anyway, Lucas, where can they find you outside the podcast?
Find me on Twitter at Karn_evil_999. I retweet wrestling news. And
I've been doing that lately, yes.
Yeah. Had the unfortunate passing of Jay Briscoe this week.
Yes.
Rest in peace. Pour out a nice can of Campbell Chunky for him.
Yeah.
I do talk video games sometimes, and I also focus on a lot of gaming on Linux type stuff because I'm into that. You can also find me on YouTube at KarnEvil9, That One Gaming Podcast. I make long plays of the games that we feature in our That One Game series.
Got some new ones coming up soon as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always check the playlist. You never know when might show up.
You never know. All right. And Neal, what about you? Where can they find you outside the podcast?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at IamVMK89. Mostly just tweet when I go live, but occasionally I'll mention some other stuff or retweet something. But follow me there if you are interested in my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/VMK9, where I mostly do Minecraft Monday, which is a weekly Minecraft stream with friends on my Minecraft server. You can expect it every evening on every Monday. We're getting very close to being ready to go to the Ender Dragon with our tougher rule set.
Ooh.
It's going to be very difficult. I'm not excited for it.
Yeah.
Well, I am, but I'm also not. Not excited to be flown off things with diamond armor on.
Yeah.
But yeah, also you can find me on YouTube, though I don't post there as often, or pretty much hardly at all nowadays, at youtube.com/@VMK9.
All right. And if you are watching / listening to this on YouTube, you're already in the right place. That's youtube.com/delicious morsels. And I'm also on Twitter. That's going to be @deliciousmorsel. There's only one morsel on Twitter because character limits are awful. And also, I do want to shout out that all of the music from our That One Game Final Fantasy 1 episode is finally available on all streaming platforms. Go check it out if you enjoyed the music from that episode. There's also 2 songs in there that were not featured in the episode itself. I did a lot of music for that one, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm going to have links to my Spotify, Apple, and various artist profiles in the description of this episode for you to check out. So please do that. I really appreciate the support. And as always, if you liked what you heard here today on this episode, please be sure to hit the subscribe button where that's an option. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts because I hear they like that stuff. Hit the like button if that's a thing where you are interacting with this episode. And feel free to share this episode with a friend. We're going to be back in a couple weeks with another one. But until then, have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember,
play for the cows.
Stay for the bears.